It seems like it's kind of the norm that I'm looking right behind all of my guests on the show, and I see nothing but wall-to-wall games, but this is the closest, most claustrophobic little background I've seen anybody have, but welcome Tiger Chainsaw to the show. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so you're most welcome, and I didn't really expect to have a visual background of like so many different games. Does it seem like it gets pretty crazy at times whenever you get a new game in your collection and you have to rearrange it, or is it just you throw it on the shelf and then forget about it until the next Wednesday?
So I'm kind of at the point where I have too many games to put on the shelf, and so if you see my vision, I've got games scattered all around my living room, and then it's like upstairs. I have like this little nook and a closet. It's head to toe of games, and it thoroughly needs a to rearrange it and sort them. And I haven't done that yet. I'm running out of space, but sometime in the near future, I would really like to get this collection looking a lot better than what it is.
And get it something closer to like what Happy Console Gamer usually has, or something closer to Metal Jesus. And I know that right before the recording, we were talking a little bit about some of the different creators that are out there that have kind of this like polarizing presence. Now, do you think that's mostly because of the fact that like their advanced knowledge of gaming, or is it because they're a collector, or is it because of just the whole part of the gaming community as it is?
I think it's a little bit of everything. If you ever meet Metal Jesus or John Riggs, they're kind of polarizing because they stick out so much because they're so much
Hmm.
taller than everyone. I'm 6'3" and I met them a couple weeks ago, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, you guys are huge. And but they're also very personable. I think that goes a long way in creating a community around whether it's your YouTube channel or just your personality on Twitter. They're really friendly guys, and I think you pair that with their incredible video game knowledge, and you're going to have a recipe for success and a big community, which those guys do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the other thing that you pretty much mentioned is that I'm starting to see a lot more people in this community that it's not just the size of their collection, but it's just the size of how tall they are in person. It's like it's the land of the giants. I know that's like a term in WWE, but it's like you literally see these people in person and they are literal giants themselves. I don't know what it is about gaming that does that to people, you know?
I know it's like the more games you have, the more inches you grow. So maybe as I age, I'll actually get taller instead of shrinking. That's my plan, hopefully.
Yeah, build like a stilts of just like Mario Duck Hunt carts. I know people make coffee tables out of those, but I would expect them to basically make like tennis shoes or moon shoes with nothing just Mario Duck Hunt carts.
Oh, absolutely. And you could sell it for $10,000 on eBay because that's just what happens now.
It's crazy. Speaking of which, since you mentioned about like not the $10,000 apparel, obviously, what would you say is like one interesting item that somebody may have sold in the past that you thought was pretty cool? You might own it one day, or something that is like, yeah, I don't think I would ever want that in my own collection.
Boy, something that I do or I don't want in my collection.
One of which.
Okay, so there's this little retro video game store down the block from me, and he's really set it between selling video games and selling vinyls of video game soundtracks. And they're
Hmm.
super customized, they look gorgeous, they are so incredibly expensive. It's like anywhere from $100 to $300. And as much as I love video game music, I can never bring myself to be like, all right, I'm gonna start listening to vinyls because that's just not what I would do. So I feel like that aspect is pretty crazy. But as far as like something that I really want that I've seen sold, oh man, I don't know. Maybe I think it'd be really cool to own like a full size Solid Snake gear. I've seen
Oh,
like
really?
costumes like on like Etsy and stuff. I've seen people like, oh, this is like what Solid Snake wore in Metal Gear Solid 2. I'd be like, that'd be cool to have. Like, I'd love to have that like displayed somewhere. So I guess that's kind of my obscure collecting wish.
Yeah, and since you mentioned about that, I know that some video game stores, especially in Japan, that I think it's Super Potato, and you go to the arcade section on top, and I think right next to one of their candy cabs that they have the Solid Snake statue where he's doing Spec Ops and he's like trying to hide. That to me would be something cool to have too, but I think that it's just the issue of it being not only too heavy, but it's just the matter of like space being the other thing too.
That's already my big problem with space. As I just said, I don't have enough room for my games, let alone like this little pinup of a costume. I don't know what I would do with that, but you're kind of teasing me about Japan. Have you been?
No, that's the goal right now because I know my girlfriend wants to go one day, but I think that if we get enough funds to be able to compile it together for like a 4 day, 5 day trip, that's the one goal that I would like to go to. But since you were asking me that, what about you? Would you like to go to Japan one day?
I would absolutely love to go to Japan. I was supposed to go in 2020, had it all booked and everything, and we were going to go for about 10 days. And of course, you know what happened. And
Mm-hmm.
so all travel stopped going to Japan. We rebooked it for 2021. That also got canceled. And then we rebooked it again, I think, for a third time. And that got canceled as well.
Hmm.
It's really frustrating. But it looks like Japan is just opening up again. So I don't know, maybe in the next year or two I'll get to go. But I had my hopes up for a while, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Yeah, I know that it's a very expensive trip as well, considering that you have like a 12 to 13 hour flight or something like that.
Hmm.
Unless you're
Yeah.
on the West Coast, then it's like a lot shorter. But considering we're talking about funds and going to Japan, what is the one key item that you would like to be able to get while over there? Or is it just a matter of just enjoying the culture of Japan as a whole?
It's definitely enjoying the culture of Japan. I've got a couple books that I'm reading right now. One of them is like a nerd's life in Japan, and
Oh,
it just
really?
like it's phenomenal. It just showcases all the cool spots in like every city, the food that you want to try, the attractions you want to see, the historical aspects, the game collecting, all of that stuff. Um, I really want to take that in, and then I also really want to do like a traditional Japanese hotel with like the sliding doors, one where you wear like kimonos, like all that stuff. Like I think that'd be just really special to take in and just really acknowledge their culture and just appreciate it. That's something that I'm really looking forward to doing. Hopefully someday.
Yeah, especially the hot springs, because I know that there's some where you have to walk a certain distance to be able to get to, like the really scenic ones that has this like mountaintop view that you can look down on. And I've only seen that in like videos that were posted up on YouTube, but I would actually like to be able to check that out because me and my girlfriend are really big into doing hiking trails, and it's like just to be able to see all of that and like really clean trails at the same time to me would be a nice little spectacle to be able to experience.
Yeah, that'd be amazing to experience. And I think for as far as games go, there's a lot of PSP games that are Japan only that I think I would kind of go after while I was there.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a couple Sega Master System games that are Japan only, because those are all region free, and so I think that'd be really cool to have.
Yeah, and since you mentioned about Sega Master System and PSP, yeah, a lot of those countries they ended up getting certain like more exclusives than what we got here in the US. Out of all the systems that got more exposure in Japan or over in Europe, what system do you think would have done better in the US had it actually had more of a presence aside from just Nintendo and then later on would be Sega Genesis?
I think you got to start near the very beginning. I grew up with a Sega Master System. My dad randomly had one, and that was all I had until before I got the PS. So if you look at the Sega Master System, definitely doesn't have the library that the NES does,
Oh
but
yeah.
there are so many incredible games for that that it's almost quantity over or quality over quantity. Um, games like Zillion. I could go talk for hours about how amazing Zillion is.
Oh yes.
Fantasy Star started on the
Hmm.
Sega Master System. There's just incredible games for that, and I feel like if they just marketed it a little bit better, if they had that money and the funds to really push the Master System, I think that would have been a much bigger hit than what it was. But it was a huge success over in Europe, and it was it was going very strong still in the early 2000s in Brazil.
Oh
So it
yes.
definitely had success.
I think it was easier to get a hold of a Sega Master System or a Mega Drive game over in Europe because I think it was like in a lot more cheaper chains or just places that didn't cost a lot of money to the public. And I think that's why that system did so well compared to the US market did.
Yeah, and obviously I love collecting games. I mean, you can see them all behind me, but Sega Match System is awesome to collect for because it comes in these. I don't think I have any next to me. They might all be upstairs, but they come in these like shells, and they kept so much better over time than the NES ones, and so you can really find a lot of great Master System games that are in pretty good condition and for not that much money. So I really like going after that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I always was confused by whenever it came to Master System games, and they, I think, rectified it when the Genesis was in the US, the cases for them didn't really have a whole lot going on for them. I think it was just this checkerboard background with
Yeah.
like a simple little art piece. I still don't get how that even got through without having to look at Nintendo and what they're doing, because it's like you've got the Mona Lisa that is on the Nintendo side, and then you got like I don't know, like a third grader art piece that would go on the fridge for comparison.
It's like MS Paint.
Yes.
I've had John Sauer on my show a few times. He was the Sega Master System project manager for North America, and he would like butt heads with Sega Japan, trying to tell them what he think would be successful in North America compared to what they thought would be successful in North America. And one of the questions I need to ask him is about that cover art because there are just, there's some charm to them because you just look at them and you're like, that is a product of the era. You would never see that again. But I don't know exactly what they were thinking in the mid 80s for the Master System artwork. But someone needs to ask him about that.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be a mystery for probably the annals of time, but who knows?
Yeah.
All right, so since you brought up video games and things you'd like to find, stuff that you can find out in the wild would be at a convention, for example. And because of the fact you were talking a little bit about coming back from Siege, I would expect like a place of that magnitude to be just sensory overload, considering there's a lot of content creators that are talking more fondly about it now, and with other places like the SoCal Gaming Retro Gaming Expo, and then of course the Portland Gaming Expo, which is usually around the fall as well. How do you see yourself going into conventions and just basically being around a lot of other content creators? Does it get a little bit overwhelming at times, or is it just a matter of you're just enjoying the convention experience like a regular attendee would?
So I'm really all new to YouTube and content creation and just my history and knowledge of YouTube. And so last year, I went to my very first video game convention. That was Midwest Gaming Classic. It's in Milwaukee,
Oh,
which is
nice.
about 10 minutes away from me. It's probably the biggest in the Midwest. And I went there because a fellow content creator invited me. He's like, hey, I'm coming up from Missouri. Why don't you come and stop by and say hello and just introduce yourself? So I went there, and it was really like a bonding experience between small YouTubers. It was really cool to just meet people that shared my passion, whether it was video games or just content creation. So my mindset going into Siege, which I just got back, I had a couple of goals. I wanted to meet some friends of mine, GameCube Galaxy, who you've interviewed.
Mhm.
Lame Dad was also there. And then there's a couple other people that I had talked to and I just wanted to meet them. And so my mindset going into these conventions is first, it's almost a celebration of video games. Let's celebrate video games. Let's meet each other. Let's, shake hands and just bond over games. Second aspect of that is what games do I want to get? What games
Yes.
are on my radar that I want to get? And I definitely bought some games. I bought maybe 20 games, and they were the games that you don't see every day at the retro video game stores I visit.
Mhm.
They were the more rare ones. I think my favorite pickups was Ape Escape 2 and Ape Escape 3. I really wanted to add those into my collection. I got them now at Siege. Oh, and I also got Thank you,
M-
Galaxy, helped me out with this one.
Metal Gear
Metal Gear
Solid.
Solid Twin
Yes.
Snakes. Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of my mindset is introducing myself to other people. I did see Metal Jesus and John Riggs, and sometimes I feel stupid like talking to them. I'm like, hey, I just started YouTube. How are you guys doing? But they're so nice. They're so cool, and just makes you feel welcomed in the community, which I think that's great.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I'm seeing a lot more now is that it's less toxic than what it used to be back in the day. And there are some channels that I've seen pop up where they don't really have any editing on their like content whatsoever, and they have like a very plain background behind them. A lot more boring than what mine is right now. But they usually just do hit pieces that they like to call "Why So and So Doesn't Need to Be Supported." Does that seem like it gets hectic for you sometimes to be able to see that, or do you just try to focus on only your content at the time?
I'm only gonna focus on my content. I feel like don't feed the troll, like don't give that attention to those people because why would they like why would you even do that? That's so frustrating to me. I just don't get that aspect that people would want to ruin other people's channels by saying don't support so and so because of this. Let's just enjoy video games. Let's just enjoy our own tastes and skill levels or whatever you want to call it. And let's just all be friends. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that it gets to the point where you're at that age, and like if you're in your mid 30s and you're still trying to argue with other people, it's like you could be doing something else with your life that doesn't require that much energy. And it's just that to me is like if it raises your blood pressure and you're at that age, it seems like that's like one step closer to possibly you having a heart attack in the end. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
not healthy.
what that signifies to me is that you're not a creative person and that you can't make your own content. So you try and take on other people that do. That's kind of how I take it. So I hope no one ever does a hit on me. But hey, I guess if they ever do, that means I'm getting noticed.
Usually, as far as conventions go in the future, where do you see Tiger Chainsaw being in like the next year or before the end of the year is over with?
So I'm really starting to get onto the convention, um, the path, I guess, of that. I
Mhm.
really enjoy my time at them. And so I'm trying to go to really rad weekend in Florida. That's going to be this November. I'm for sure going to be going to Midwest Gaming Classic next year because that's, right in my backyard. And then I would like to try a different convention, whether it's in Phoenix, whether it's out in California. I know they have one, I think in New Jersey that I'd be interested in going to.
Mhm.
I'm up for whatever. If someone invites me to a convention and if I can spend the funds, I'll totally go. So if there's a reason for me to go, I'm gonna do my best to be there.
And that's good. Hopefully, when people watch this, that they'll be able to jot that down on their calendar, because a lot of times we get people that watch these and always love hearing where they're going to be going to. So hopefully, when this is out, that they'll be able to meet you at whichever convention that you have on your list.
Yeah, I'd love to meet anyone that loves video games. I'm the same on camera as I am off camera. I'll talk to anyone about gaming, and I'll have fun with you. I'm pretty easy to talk to, so if anyone sees me at a gaming convention, come say hey.
Yeah, and so far we haven't had any trouble yet as far as like me saying something wrong and then being like, I'm gonna try to track you down and hunt you down for the rest of your life. So
That's good.
that's
You
good.
want to keep that record clean.
That's what I want to be able to do is make this a clean show. People may swear every once in a while, but hey, that's all part of the fun, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to that question that I was holding off on. Tiger Chainsaw. I know that we've had Retro Wolf on here explain his name. Does part of your name Tiger Chainsaw have to do with your name? Do you have like a chainsaw for a nickname, or where does the name come from exactly?
Excellent question. One that is fun to answer, but a little embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
So as a kid, I didn't know what a nickname was. I was probably 5 or 6. So someone was like, "What's your nickname?" And I was like, "I don't know what a nickname is." And so he's like, "Well, it's some of your favorite things and you combine them." And as a
Mm.
6-year-old, nothing was cooler than tigers and chainsaws. And so I was like, "I'm Tiger Chainsaw." And I just kind of like kept that like nickname in my back pocket. And I was like, well, I'm either going to become a super famous rapper and my rap name's going to be Tiger Chainsaw,
Oh.
or I'll be a YouTube content creator and I'll be called Tiger Chainsaw. So YouTube won out. So that's kind of where I got my nickname from when I was 6 years old. What is a nickname? There you have it.
It's funny that you mention about that because when I moved back to Alabama and my family was running a ceramic business called Ceramics and More, and nobody knew me when I first got there, and I was in 8th grade. And they were basically asking, what does the more stand for in ceramics and more? And it's like, well, they have like all these different items. They had wicker furniture, but then they started randomly naming off things like fishing tackle baits, sporting goods, and then somehow they came across the name chicken wings. It's like, does your family sell chicken wings? It's like, no, they don't. And then it's like, you know what? We're just gonna call you chicken wings. And it's like, I've had that as my username for like so many years, and I know that it's a weird story to go off on. Trust me, I know, but it's one of those things. It's like it just comes natural. Some people do it in a name generator sometimes, or it's just an after-school name they give you out of the blue. So that's crazy to see more people have that for themselves.
I know, and the one thing that I never thought that would happen is that so many people now call me TC. I just never associated that, but it's easy to say. People know who TC is, and so it kind of works now. So it's a shorter version of my nickname, but I like it. It's good.
And just so GameCube Galaxy knows, I'm still trying to pronounce GCG. It still is hard to pronounce it, but yeah, TC is a way easier nickname to
Yeah,
shorten for people who are just looking to say, "Hey TC, how's it
yeah,
going?"
way easier.
Okay, so for example, if you weren't going with Tiger Chainsaw, I know that there may have been like a backup name to go off on. What exactly would that be for the channel if you actually decided to one day go by a different name?
Oh boy, what answer do I give you? Do I give you the silly one or the serious one?
Uh,
Because I go like my 6th grade email was crazy underscore person, and then it was
oh
like my zip
yeah.
code. And I only had that because cat poop sniffer was taken already. And so I probably would like pick a different really strange name because I like to stick out a little bit. I like to
Hmm.
peacock a little bit, and so I'd probably pick a really weird game, but it would probably be a nickname more associated with gaming so that when people see the nickname they're like, "Oh, he is a video game content creator," instead of "What is a tiger chainsaw?" Like, what is that? But I'm not really sure what I would re-nickname myself or rebrand myself. What about you? Would you be like frog wings or another animal wings or frog feet, something like that?
Honestly, I that's the hardest part is like thinking of your own persona nickname to go off on. I know that it's crazy. I've seen people, like I said before, do like a random name generator and just like run off of that. But I don't even know like how to think of. That's kind of why with like how you said it, I probably would have gone with my old Yahoo email address, which was Anime Fan Kevin, and
There
it
you
was
go.
just like that was the thing that I was known by. I was a fan of anime, and my name was Kevin. But yeah, it's one of the hardest things to think of when you're trying to think of a nickname. But since I started doing all of these different channels, that I just went with either Uncommon Valley or just Select Screen, and I don't know. It's like, yeah, I'd have a hard time thinking about what to call myself if I wasn't called Chicken Wings.
Select Screen's a really good name. I think that's a great name for the channel. I think if I had to like choose a video game related one, it would have to be something with Pokemon. As far as like Generation 1, that was like a really huge inspiration to me. I was 10 years old when Pokemon dropped, I was that target audience. So I'd probably select something to do with Pokemon, some Easter egg maybe of Pokemon that I'd go with.
Mew under the truck. I know that that was like a big thing back in the day, and
Yeah.
I don't even know if that ended up being a real thing that people just randomly discovered, but I don't know. I may need to look into it.
I don't think it was. I think you could get to the truck, but I don't think Mew is actually under it.
Oh,
I
okay.
I don't know. I didn't actually try it, but maybe. I don't know.
All right, so now we're finally on the Tiger Chainsaw Show, and that's what a lot of people know your channel by. But you did stuff before that where you were just kind of testing the waters out, and you could pretty much see that right before you started doing the talk show. What was it you wanted to do originally, and why did you finally decide to go with the talk show format for your channel? Was it because you're a fan of talk shows, or was it just because you didn't see a lot of people on YouTube doing things like that at the time?
Awesome question. So, kind of how the Tiger Chainsaw Show was an idea that I had. It goes all the way back to 2017.
Hmm.
I didn't get on YouTube until 2021. And the reason I didn't start doing the Tiger Chainsaw Show right away is because I really wanted to be prepared for that. And so I wanted to build an audience first, which didn't work the way I wanted it to. I was like, what do people like? People like lists, like top 10 things, and people are passionate. So I'm going to make a dual set of videos, 10 things I like, 10 things I hate about Mega Man. I thought that would like gain an audience. Didn't really happen. That's okay. So then I was like, well, what else do people like? Like collecting video games. I see a ton of those all over on YouTube. So I'll start doing that. And I try and make it as entertaining as possible. I do collect a lot of video games. So in 2020, I went from $2,000 in video game collection to I am now approaching $40,000 in my video game collection. So just in 2 years,
Wow.
I've been able to do that. So you can kind of follow a little bit of my journey on that. And then I was kind of like, all right, what else do guy gamers like? They like girls in video games. And so then I put together a silly skit called Girls in Video Games where I talk about all types of girls. I talk about heroes, I talk about villains, I talk about sexy girls, I talk about girls that are blocks and not even like it it's a ridiculous series. But to answer your question, I was trying to do all of that stuff to get that audience prepared for the Tiger Chainsaw Show. And for those that are listening or watching that don't know what the Tiger Chainsaw Show is, it is a retro late night talk show where I review a specific game. And in that talk show, I review the plot, gameplay. There's retro commercials from that year that the game was released because I really try and put you guys into that year. I do comedy skits on it, and then I have a musical performance at the end. It's typically like a YouTuber or an indie band, but the real treat of the Tiger Chainsaw Show is the guest interviews that I do. I've had Manami Matsume, the Mega Man composer, on.
Hmm.
I've had Terry Smith, who created Kratos from God of War. Um, I've had lots and lots of different creators and producers on, and I feel like that's really the main treat of the show. But I feel like it's entertaining and it's funny. I feel like that content creation was missing from YouTube. I think Angry Video Game Nerd is going to be retiring. I would assume so within 5 years. I feel like he's almost got that content burnout going.
Oh,
And I just feel
yes.
like there's gonna be something missing that people are looking for, and that is what I'm hoping that the Tiger Chainsaw Show is. Um, a lot of work goes into it. I don't know if that's too much sharing right away, but that's just kind of my thoughts on how I started the Tiger Chainsaw Show.
Oh, of course. And that was the other thing I was going to say. Since you mentioned about that, you said that it's a lot of work to be able to produce any episodes of the Tiger Chainsaw Show. How long? Just basically do like a rough quote of like how many hours. So, like for example, like the Kratos episode or the God of War episode where you're doing that with the interviewer and so on. How long did that one take for you for a creator?
So the season one episode of, or the season one of Tiger Chainsaw Show was 167 pages long. I wrote
Holy
it all
cow.
out. I write out everything that I do, whether it's the interview, what I'm talking about with gameplay, all that stuff. I was doing, I was doing it really consecutively for season one, and I was getting it down pat where I'd be like, I shoot it on Sunday night, I edit it Monday through Thursday, I get it uploaded Friday, it gets uploaded in 4K, all set to go Monday night. So it's a couple days of editing, it's one day of filming, but the thing that takes the longest time is getting these interviews and getting the musical
Hmm.
performances to send me stuff, because I don't just take some random person. I email them and I'm like, hey, I think your stuff's really good. Can I use it on my show? Do you want to perform a new song or something like that to go on the show? It's so much back and forth talking about, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do this? Can I use this? And so any episode, to edit it takes about a week,
Hmm.
but to actually get it going, it can take up to like a month and a half.
Oh,
Just
wow.
to show you an example, for season 2 of the Tiger Chainsaw Show, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a tease. I am trying to fight Johnny Cage, the original actor for Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat for the Genesis.
Holy
He's got a
cow.
dojo. Yeah, he's got a dojo about an hour away from me. I have been emailing this guy for 3 months, trying to find a time that works well for me to go to his dojo, get my butt kicked, get it on camera, and then use it for the Tiger Chainsaw Show. It's just like stuff like that that just takes so long to happen that it can be frustrating. But when I put it together and I watch it, when people watch it, they say it's really good. They really enjoy it. David Jaffe, the creator of God of War and Twisted Metal, tweeted about it. He's like, "This
Hmm.
show's good. Check it out." That makes me feel good, but it's a lot of work. It is.
Yeah, and it's always fulfilling to be able to see that your content is getting viewed by a lot more people. And considering we've had people on the show, just shout out your channel a few times that we've had them on. And that to me is just as important as being able to put a video out because it shows that it's not just you that sees the vision of what you want to put out there for people to watch, it's all these other content creators who will just shout you out on Twitter, Facebook, if there's people that still use that, Instagram, and even sometimes Snapchat. Which we've had somebody who was messaging us on Discord saying it's like, yeah, there's so and so that mentioned about him on Snapchat, and it's like check them
Wow.
out, and it's cool that there's so much social media that's out there that for them to be able to get the word out, as expansive as that can be, is pretty crazy, but also a very good feeling at the same time too.
Yeah, it's a great feeling, and I think that's community is the reason why the Tiger Chainsaw Show has grown as far as gaining new viewers and everything like that. So I'm very appreciative for this interview. I'm very appreciative to anyone that shouts out the show or watches it, because I know the YouTube algorithm is fighting against me, because nobody's searching for Fantasy Zone review. Nobody is searching for like Wave Race 64 review. These games are 25 years old. But I feel like once you watch an episode of the TC show, you realize passion that goes into it, the hard work that goes into it. And once I get someone to watch it, they're going to keep watching it. And that's just what I need help with. I just need help with people getting the word out about the show, because the YouTube algorithm is not going to be my friend with these shows that I'm putting out. That's just it. So I'm very appreciative of this, and I'm very appreciative that anyone that watches it and just shares it with a friend.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that when it was right before the interview, I went to watch the God of War episode, and the one thing that I like about it is the fact that it's not just you reviewing the game. It's literally the presentation of the story behind it. Any of like the background characters, and then of course you do the review, and then there was like, for example, I think that was your girlfriend that was playing the game for a little bit,
My
or
wife, yeah.
oh, okay, my mistake. I thought it was just your girlfriend, but congratulations on
Oh,
having
no, you're
a
fine.
yeah, having a gamer marriage. That's the other thing that's always cool to have, is like if you have someone who is a significant other that really does love the hobby as much as you do, and is like, you want to be a part of this video? Yeah, sure. And that's the
I have to
other
twist her
dynamic.
arm.
Huh?
I have to twist her arm sometimes to do it, but yeah, it's nice when she goes along with the skits and stuff.
But yeah, like I said before, the one thing about it is that there's not a lot of content that is out there that has variety shoved into basically like a standard TV length. Like 30 minutes is, I think, not a very like normal thing to see, with like every few weeks you get something of that caliber, and then it's out there in that quality. So yeah, I'm excited about season 2, even though I've seen only just one episode. So I gotta go back and watch the Mega Man one probably after I get done with these interviews.
Yeah, the Mega Man one is really, it's special because that's the first one I ever did. So it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's still, it's a good one. I think my favorite one is probably the Wave Race 64 one,
Hmm.
or the Quest for Glory one. Wave Race 64 musical performance is awesome. They crush it. I think my skit is hilarious in that one. And then the interview was very interesting. I had the Wave Race 64 announcer on. He's discussing the recording process and what it was like to record at Nintendo, and how they kind of snuck in um, Mario Kart 64 for him, and he didn't realize it, and he didn't get paid for it, so he's like kind of pissed about it. But it's just like little tidbits about that stuff is like, it's really interesting. But yeah, definitely check out as many episodes as you want. I'd be delighted.
And definitely anybody else who is listening to this after the show, definitely go support Tiger Chainsaw, because from what I've seen so far, it is really good content. And the fact that you're about to hit 500 subs, or am I getting that wrong?
I just crossed 600, so I'm at
Oh,
609.
okay. There we go. I'm thinking of Lame Dad, which is the other person I'm interviewing, because I know he's close to 500. I think it's like 25 subs away, so hopefully
Yeah,
by the
we
time this is out, he'll be at that point.
we're actually texting each other today. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna get interviewed too." It's just fun, you know. It's like, select screen's got us. All right.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun to get you guys on, and that's the other thing I was going to discuss about like your show, because I know how tough it is to be able to get somebody on to record for an interview, and that is a very crucial part for your show. But like, let's say for example, if somebody had to pull out at the very last minute, and you had to think of a backup plan, who would actually fill in for that spot, or would you just scrap the whole episode together and just go to like another one?
So I typically don't film an episode unless I have an interview.
Hmm.
So that's kind of how I come up with it. I have a website, TigerChainsaw.com, where I review all these games, and I have probably over 200 reviews on them,
Oh, wow.
and I will only do a Tiger episode show based on one of my reviews. And so I've got about 200 to choose from. And so kind of how I work is I write up, I have an email that I send out to these people that I want to interview, and either they completely ignore it or they say yes. I have a pretty good success rate. It's like 95% of the people that actually respond are like, yeah, I'll do that, sure. And so once I get the interview, then I start putting the pieces together for the show. I'm like, okay, who would be a good musical guest for this? I'll put that in. I'll get my review from my website and I'll start writing the script. That's kind of how I work when it comes to putting together a show on the Tiger Chainsaw Show.
A lot of times that usually whenever I do have people on here to interview that they do take time to respond back because I know how real life is to them a lot of the time because you got work and then on top of that you're also trying to make fulfillments for other content on the side. So at the same time, it's like you're always thinking about something else to put in the back burner until they respond back to you. So yeah, interviews are tough, and I mean, I commend anybody who actually does stuff like that and tries to get it out in a timely fashion.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. I'll give a little spoiler for season 2 again if this actually happens.
Mhm.
I'm currently talking with John Garvin, who created Days Gone, and he is the creator of the Siphon Filter series.
Oh wow.
And I want to do an episode on the original Siphon Filter, and so I emailed him, and he responded. He's like, "Oh, like yeah, let's do this. Send me your questions."
Hmm.
And so I did, and he responds. He's like, "This is a little bit Siphon Filter heavy. I was hoping to talk more about Ashfall, my new game coming out." And I was like, "All right, John. If I can ask 5 questions about Siphon Filter and 5 questions about Ashfall, will that work for you?" And I'm waiting to hear back from him, but I'm confident I can get him on the show, and that'd just be a huge name to get on there as well. But you kind of got to cater to what the guest wants sometimes, and I'm trying to do that with John.
That's the thing that is always hard to like jump through hoops, especially if it's a certain creator or just somebody who is a musician that they want to try to get as much media press as possible on their current project, even though a lot of people are interested in like this one subcategory that most people are interested in. And that's kind of why at times we try to sprinkle in some of that more modern take stuff in here so that way people will get a mix of both. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's tough to do stuff like that.
yeah. One of the more frustrating things with building my audience on YouTube is, the TC show takes a long time to produce, and
Mhm.
so I'm holding off season 2 until I have 12 episodes, and then they can just air consecutively on Mondays. So
Oh
12
yeah.
straight Mondays with a TC show. That's perfect for a season.
Hmm.
But I don't want to be punished for not putting out content for 3 months. Is YouTube going to punish me for that? If I
Oh
do
yeah.
put out content, it's not going to be the TC show. So then the algorithm gets all messed up again, and it's just like it's an internal battle with myself. It's like, what do I do? Do I put out content that I'm not passionate about anymore, or do I wait 3 months and just have it empty? It's a conundrum.
Most certainly is, and hopefully it doesn't screw you up whenever you try to do season 2 or onward from there. So, like we said before, anybody who does listen to this, definitely check out the channel. It is definitely recommended on my part from just the one episode that I've seen so far.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, it's no problem. And on the last thing about the show itself, usually whenever you do a review of a game, I know that places like IGN have like their own little setup if it's not biased or like paid by the company to be able to give it a high rating. What to you is determined based on the score? Is it mostly just visuals, music, and all of the other stuff category wise, or is it just one lump sum of just, I think of it highly standard of like a 9 or to a 4 or 5?
I have a little bit of a scoring system and I'll give it any game, 0 to 10, and pretty much I explain my scoring scale for each episode. 0 to 5 is gonna be don't waste your time, don't play it, terrible game. And I don't go through the plot and gameplay and the music in the scoring system,
Hmm.
but I do take into account all of those factors when I give the final score. And so, like a 6 out of 10, people see that and they're like, "Oh, that's not like a good game. I don't want to play that." It's not necessarily what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say it's a 6 out of 10 because maybe it's made more for a niche audience. It's a little bit rough around the edges.
Hmm.
I feel like a 7 is a game that everyone should at least play for an hour, see if you like it or not.
Hmm.
Then 8s are like they're like must owns, and then like 9 and above is like you need to own this, and this is like a great game for you to play. So I take into account all of those factors and put it into one score rather than breaking it down each time. That's kind of my scoring system. And then I will say, nostalgia does play a factor in some of my game scores.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can see it a little bit. I gave Driver. I'm going to defend Driver. Okay, if you ever watched the episode, it's a fantastic game filled with so many great small details from like voice messaging system. I get so much crap from all my buddies. You gave Driver a 9.7 out of 10. Go play that game. It is a phenomenal game for that time. And but maybe nostalgia affected me a little bit, but I try not to have it.
Well, since you mentioned about Driver 1, I did play the second one before I played the first one, and this was like back in the day when GTA was still overhead. I think the second GTA was not even like polygons. It was just only like sprite animation and stuff like that. So the fact that it did like 3D third person gameplay style before the third game came out is to me more revolutionary than GTA 3. So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and play the first one again because it's been a while, but Driver 2 was like one of my personal favorites on the PS1 back in the day.
Yeah, Driver 2 is a good game. I give it an 8 out of 10. I remember my review exactly for Driver 2. You can get out of the car, and the little guy like runs like this. He's just like, oh. But the walking mechanic is really tight, and it's really frustrating. And I feel like if you're going to introduce a mechanic like walking, you really need to like make it work. And that's kind of why I lean more toward Driver 1, because like there's like a hub world where you can go into this hotel, you can take a drive if you want. They kind of got rid of those features in Driver 2. Now, don't get me wrong, Driver 2 is still a great game, but if you can get past that tutorial mission in Driver 1, you're going to have a lot more fun with that game.
With that being said, we are close to the end of the recording, and you know what we always do here is our little segment called the 5 Count. So for anybody who is new, what we do is we use this as a way for the person I'm interviewing to highlight 5 content creators that they're choosing, whether they're on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, any place that has a social media platform, and basically use it as a way to highlight any of those people. So without further ado, just take away who you pick as your 5.
So we talked a little bit before this interview about how I'm really new to YouTube, and I watched maybe 5 channels, and that was it before I got onto YouTube last year. And I'm going to talk about 2 of these channels that I just think have a lot of inspired me a lot. The first one is going to be GameSack.
Oh, yes.
I love GameSack. I like the subtle humor. I like the dry humor. I think his videos, Joe's videos, are extremely well edited, and it's just, I know that when a video comes out with GameSack, I'm gonna sit down at some point and then watch it start to finish because it's just great. It's great knowledge. The other bigger YouTuber that I would like to send some praise toward is Classic Gaming Quarterly. Chris. I actually emailed him and I sent him like a thank you. I was like, hey, your channel really inspired me to start my own. I'm doing the Tiger Chainsaw Show. And I sent him a link to it. He actually watched the entire episode. He's like, this is phenomenal. This is so cool. He goes, I actually wanted to do a talk show as well. And he sent me clips
Oh,
of like
wow.
12 years ago that he was like thinking about doing. He's like, this is so cool. I'm so glad you're doing it. And he's like, I'm really glad that I inspired you. But what I really like about Classic Gaming Quarterly, he does these Let's Reads. I love video game magazines so much. I have a huge collection of them. But what he'll do is he'll just like read the magazine and he'll show highlights of the game that he's like talking about. And he's got a voice. So if anyone doesn't know Classic Gaming Quarterly, go check him out.
He has, what kind of voice it cut out there?
Oh, he's just got a really nice deep voice when it comes to reading. It's like a satisfying voice to listen to.
Okay.
And so it's like he's reading to you these articles, and it's like, yeah, that's what I want. It's great.
Oh, nice.
My other the other three that I should mention, GameCube Galaxy. He's a friend of mine, and he's someone that has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to GameCube games, and we have like a group chat, and it's just funny. Like whenever I have like a tech question or like anything that's, because I'm not very tech smart when it comes to video games. I can play them all day, but I don't exactly know what goes into like creating them. I'll like kind of geek out and nerd out about like something that's like technical about it. He's like, I can't believe this is happening. They got this and that, and I'm just like, man, GameCube Galaxy, you're silly, dude. But he's a great content creator. Definitely go check him out. And then Lame Dad, who you're going to be interviewing soon.
Yes.
He's another good YouTuber that I enjoy. Kind of how I picture his channel is like, if you go to a gaming store and you like pick up a game and you're like, is this game good or bad? What do I want to know about this game? And you don't want to like listen to IGN or like the paid reviews or any of that stuff. Lame Dad is the guy in the corner who's just like, let me tell you about that game. The game sucks. Or he'll be like, that game's really good. Like he's like that guy in the corner that's just gonna tell you like his thoughts on games. And I really like his channel because if he doesn't like the game, he's gonna saw it in half. And it's just a little fun aspect with his game or his channel. And then I guess the fifth one. This was a really tough question for me, and it was a tough decision for number 5. I'm gonna say this guy because his channel is very unique for a couple of different reasons. The guy's name is Thunder Moose. Okay.
Oh.
And he's small. He's probably got like maybe 200 subscribers, but he deserves so much more. His videos are really well done and they're edited. And the best that I can describe his content is if you've ever watched PBS and it's like these like little mini documentaries on some random hobby.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like pottery or, just whatever, something like that. He reminds me of that, where he'll talk about a certain aspect of video games and he does a really good job of it. I think he's in the Netherlands or Denmark. He's somewhere around there. So you also get this unique perspective that Americans don't get. And whenever he puts out a video, it's like you're almost hanging out with him and he's educating you on this topic. So Moose is a great YouTube channel that deserves a lot of love, and he also puts out his own video game music, which is also kind of a treat whenever he plays it. So those would be my 5 content creators that I like, I admire. Go sub to them all.
And hopefully people that watch this all the way through will definitely do that. And it seems like that is an ongoing thing where everybody that has commented has always watched these through. And I think it's mostly the experience of being able to not only just learn about the people that we get on here, but also of the recommendations. And that's kind of why we always make this show, is to be able to showcase off any new talent that not a lot of people know about. So thank you very much, Tiger Chainsaw, for coming on. And hopefully those people that get the spotlight will be able to come on the show one day and hopefully interview them and see whatever new shows are on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on this show. It's all my pleasure. I love talking video games. I love talking about my YouTube channel, and I love talking with other people that enjoy that stuff too. So just thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, you're most welcome, man. Hopefully, about a year later down the line, that we'll be able to catch up with you, and who knows, maybe you'll be over 1,000 subs by the time that we get back to you again.
That's the goal. Hopefully January 1st, I'm over 1,000. That's what I'm shooting for. So we'll see.
We'll try to get that going. But once again, Tiger Chainsaw, thank you very much again for coming on for the interview. It was a pleasure to have you on, man.
Thank you very much.